I just realized I'm the chairperson, so I'm supposed to start this meeting. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Well, we'll get this meeting underway. I guess we'll get to not too many instructions. I think we've all been here before. Who's on this group? I mean, I'd like to shorten it up and not have a full roll call. Are we all here, or
I think Don Amario is the only one.
Don Amario.
just Don and Mario?
Yep.
And
So-
Nicholas Meigs, I'm filling in for him.
Okay.
Oh, and Whitemeyer, I'm sorry.
What's your name?
Buck Condit.
Buck.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Review and approval of minutes. No minutes to approve this meeting. Discussion, I'll turn that over to you, Chief, and do you have some items you want to go through?
Yes, and the first thing is the personnel transition. The personnel transition really went extremely well. A little bit of a hiccup with the final contract signing, and we were at the last minute. September 1st was a Monday, and we were a little nervous that it wasn't going to get done. The attorneys got involved over the weekend, and we actually got those contracts signed. Everybody transitioned over like we thought they would. They've been through this, I think 6 or 7 times now between dispatch and fire agencies, and this probably was one of the smoothest transitions that we've done, and that was due to a lot of hard work by all of you folks before I got here. The piece with the contract issues over the weekend, that wasn't the smoothest transition I've been through, but as far as just bringing the people over, acclimating to the new district, and you know, no service level interruptions or anything like that. I was extremely impressed. All the folks that came over have been extremely professional. Not to say that we haven't had some hiccups with, you know, we do it this way in Stanislaus County, we do it this way in Oakdale District, we do it this way in Oakdale City. We're still working on, you know, fine tuning it, but overall fire engines are still responding, you know, out of the fire stations within a minute or so and getting to their emergencies within 5 minutes, 90% of the time, and acting in a professional manner and providing, you know, superior customer service, and that's really what we're expecting of them. So the, you know, that whole thing is, like I said, it went extremely well. One of the things that we're struggling a little bit with is we have a couple of long-term workers' comp issues, so we have some openings. And we'll kind of transition to the budget here real quick. Due to those openings, our overtime is up. And we also have had several strike teams that went out in September and October. So our budget's showing right now that we are about $100,000. We had a $300,000 budget for overtime. We're over $400,000 right now. We're only 5 months through the year. But the good news is the state owes us over $150,000 in reimbursement. We're owed about $60,000 to $70,000 from workers' comp. And you take those numbers, and we have openings on the personnel side. We're running about $120,000 under on the regular salary side. So overall, our budget is looking actually really good. We're actually under just a little bit. So I do budget a little different than probably city budgets, and I'm a little more detailed on it. I know a lot of budgets are, hey, we never want to be over budget, so you know we kind of pad some certain areas. I don't do that as much, so we're going to be close, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I do expect us to be under budget, but you're not going to see hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings at the end of the year because of things that weren't done. So the other portion of the budget that we're expecting to see some additional revenue in is through the fire prevention side, because building has really taken off. For the city of Oakdale, probably not as much, because you're doing most of your fire prevention work in-house still. We are helping a little bit when requested. We send folks there to help out, and then we'll charge our fees based upon the help that we're providing. But in the rural district and in the rest of our district, you know, we're estimating, just based on a couple of months of experience, that we could see approximately $300,000 in revenue from fire prevention. Well, to do that, though, we have to upstaff our fire prevention staff a little bit, and we've done that through part-time employees because we understand the importance of keeping a flexible workforce, because this building boom isn't going to go on forever, and we don't want to lay folks off. So we do have a couple of part-time inspectors, and we're going to go to our board on next Thursday and ask for a part-time secretary to keep up with the work in fire prevention. But we believe that fire prevention is an extremely important component of our comprehensive fire protection program. The county's done it in the past, while the county has that capability, when they do our fire prevention inspections, they charge like we do, so they're being reimbursed for it. Plus, they have control of our fire prevention services. Some of it is offset by less than county fire funds, but overall, I think that their fire prevention services are funded through the fees program. So rather than letting them collect those fees, we collect those fees and have control over our fire prevention services. So our budget isn't showing those fees coming in yet. We've talked to the county, and the county, there's been a kind of a snafu in what accounts they're placing them in, so they haven't shown up yet. But we're looking at a big increase in the amount of fire prevention work we're doing. And we do expect the program to be a self-funded program. We're also going to, went to the board and requested a study be done on our fee schedule to determine if our fees are where they're supposed to be based upon salaries and effort that we're putting forth in fire prevention. That will be done in January or February, and we do expect those fees to be increased a little bit because the last fee schedule was developed in 2007. So you'll see the fees go up a little bit, but the board will really have to decide at what, and we'll come to the other boards also, or to the council and the other board, to see what your tolerance level is for our fee schedule. But the board will decide whether it's going to be a full cost recovery program, and we're going to not, fire prevention isn't going to cost anything because we're going to charge fees that will cover everything. Or wait a minute, we still have to be competitive. We want to encourage building, and we'll back off on that a little bit, and through our general fund money, we'll fund some of our fire prevention activities. So that'll be another conversation for January or February for both this group and the city council, our the Oakdale District Board, and of course the Stanislaus Consolidated Board. One of the things, and I'm to 4.3 now, one of the things that, I'm sorry, are there any questions about budget? Okay. 4.3, Oakdale Fire Protection District. When we initially sat down with them and talked to them about, I'm talking about you like you're not here, and I apologize for that, but when we sat down and talked to them about this contract for services concept, they were still extremely interested in a full consolidation. And I had, I'll give this to you. Let me keep that one, maybe pass that around. And so I gave them a presentation on kind of what that process would look like and what it would be, and LAFCO process, and kind of what some of the challenges are with continuing down that path. And what they requested that I do is bring it to this board to have a discussion about potential full consolidation with the Oakdale Fire District. And I come into this with kind of a different view on this. I know that we were going down a path of going, and we'll walk through the presentation quickly, but we were going down a path of overlaying our assessment on the rural district without going to a vote of the public. And there is some case law that supports that conceptually, but not exactly the way we were going to do it, and that really concerned me from a potential liability standpoint and the challenging of Prop 218. So I'll just go through this with you briefly, and I'll answer any questions that you might have about an annexation of the organization for the district. Definitely advantages to the rural district would be a single governance, single business system, shared overhead, guaranteed. Right now we have shared overhead, but of course everybody has a 365 day out, long-term sustainability, tax assessment, escalation. They have an assessment right now that doesn't have a built-in escalation. So those are the things that they would get out of it. What they would lose, I believe, some local control. Now our board would be deciding their service levels. Of course, they would have a member on our board, but that would only be one vote. Right now they have 5 votes on their service levels and how they provide those services. Reduced funding for the first 3 years. You have to remember that right now their assessment is actually higher than our assessment. So it'd be 3 years before our escalation overtook them, and then potential funding segregation. I think that if we were to do something like that we'd probably have to segregate the funds, because our district has been paying the assessment for 7 years. We have $10 million in the bank, and so there would be some concern about taking the last 7 years of funds and rebuilding their fire stations and their fire engines. And of course, the advantages to our district would be a guaranteed economies of scale savings. Right now, this is advantageous to our district because of sharing our overhead, and it would guarantee that long-term single governance. I wouldn't have to go to 2 board meetings. There wouldn't have to be 2 sets of minutes and all the other things. Operational depth that would guarantee that, which we still realize through the contractor services, and then the greater fire protection influence at the county and state level. I think the bigger that we get, the more influence we have with the county fire warden's office, county board of supervisors, and the like. Of course, our disadvantages would be the Prop 218 challenges. My concern would be that we would go through this process, they would become part of us, and then we get the Taxpayers Association coming retrospectively and challenging it under 218 challenge. If we lost that, it would be our fire district that would actually, because the Oakdale Rural Fire District would no longer exist. And so that would be one of my concerns that our board would definitely have to and then the whole idea of subsidies, because we do have some money in the bank and they do need fire engines and fire stations, that people would be viewed, this would be viewed that they were looking at us subsidizing them. And so that's a segregation discussion that I had earlier. And if we did it with this overlay, again, there's no case study authority to impose the tax benefit on annexed territory. One of the things that our attorney did provide to us was one case where Huntington Beach, a small area outside of Huntington Beach, actually was going to be annexed by Huntington Beach, and Huntington Beach was going to impose the taxes that were in the city on this community that they were going, on this homeowners association that they were going to annex. Homeowners Association actually sued Huntington Beach and said, hey, under 218 we get to vote on these taxes, and to kind of a quick summary is the courts ruled no, under LAFCO law, cities can annex as long as it's in your sphere of influence and you can impose those taxes without going through the 218 process. Applying this, okay, where we have 2 independent districts that have 2 independent governance, and one district has tried a couple of tax assessments with the escalation, and the other district has it, and it would almost look like an end run if we took that and applied it to that other district without going back to the tax payers for a 218 vote. So that would be my concern if we continue down this path. And then, on the last page, my recommendation, I really believe to protect both districts, that it would be in the best interest if there is a strong desire by the rural district to do a full consolidation. I think what they would need to do is to have our tax assessment passed in their district. And even with that, I still think we would have to segregate funds because of the money that our taxpayers have put away for the last 7 years before we would just apply those funds to the rural district, because they are in some need of some facilities and some equipment. It doesn't say that this isn't possible. It's been done before. And there is some thought and philosophy when it comes to special districts. Once you become, we're one and the money is one, and I think that they would make a strong argument that should be the case, and it's not a bad argument. But my concern, just based upon our board meetings and some folks from Riverbank and Waterford, that they would have problems with that, and I could just see that as an issue for our board. definitely willing to answer any questions. That's the presentation that I gave to the rural board. And it's a little unfortunate because really they were on that track, and then you have a new fire chief that comes in and says, wait a minute, and I know there was some frustration, and they let me know there was some frustration that the new guy came and changed things in the middle of this process. But again, based on my experience, I do think that the contract for services in this particular time was the best thing for not only the city, but for the special district also.
Well, I mean, after the Fresno situation, I think everybody got it was going on. I mean, that was my big thing. Look what's going on in Fresno. That 218 fight never even got to court, and the city backed down.
Yes.
Because they were talking $1 million to fight the Taxpayers Association. And then all of a sudden it was a done deal, then it wasn't a done deal, and that can be really hard on
Absolutely.
our ability to provide fire service in this case. It's not quite the same thing. The water's still gonna flow during
Absolutely.
the fight. But we get in a fight after the fact, then, the taxpayers are on the hook for the situation. So I'm glad to see that, I think especially with the history in the district of not voting for tax increases in the past, they would have put up a fight. So, any other questions?
Just,
Go ahead.
What does the council say?
Was what?
Council?
Oh, our council?
Well, yeah.
Our council, our district council is their district council.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a little bit of a problem also. But he did give a ruling, and I'm a little reluctant to give it out because it's a confidential district council ruling, and I don't have the authority to hand it out. But I can tell you that he gave the Huntington Beach was the case law that he used, and he basically said that it can be done. And if it were challenged, he didn't promise that we could withstand the challenge. He didn't use the Fresno case, and I even think the Fresno case was ongoing when this happened. In his legal opinion, actually was given about a week before I got here, and so I was like 3 weeks, 4 weeks into this thing when I'm questioning it. When I finally found his legal opinion, said, this creates concern. So he says that yes, it can be done. He also got LAFCO's attorney to say yes, it can be done, and he does not believe that there would be a challenge. So that's our district council's opinion on it.
I have two questions for you. One, is this something you're going to bring to our board, or is it based on the discussion here?
We could bring it to our board. If I was looking for further direction from the Oakdale District Board to see if they wanted to continue to pursue it. And then if we did want to continue to pursue full regionalization, before I took any more steps in that direction, I would definitely need direction from our board to continue to pursue it. So I was kind of waiting to hear from them. If they said, okay, Chief Bradley, based upon what your recommendation is, we'll hold off on doing this. Or they say, something, we still think we could do it. We want to move forward. Please, schedule a meeting, maybe a workshop with your board so we could figure out how to move this thing forward. But I haven't received that feedback from them yet. Actually, the only thing they asked me is to bring it to this group at this point.
We have discussed the subsidy, and there wouldn't, that's totally unfair, we recognize that.
Yeah.
So there'd have to be kind of a separate pot, at least for quite a while. And that's the only thing we come up with on that. Because we know we can't expect Riverbank and Waterford and everybody else to support whatever we do.
So you're saying right now your board is wanting to go forward with that?
As of last meeting, yeah. And I can't say anything that's happened since, but I haven't heard anything from that. I'm not we're the city, as a city, we're kind of out of this loop a little bit, other than I'm very interested in Consolidated's financial health.
Right.
And getting into a legal battle. The city, we've had a few legal battles, and attorneys, year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800,000, like that, these kind of issues, because you got to get a specialist, and you got to get all this research done. And so I want to make sure I understand what we're talking about. Are we talking about their district, because they have their own governance, putting it on the ballot? Or are we talking about still going the old way where we just impose it and hope for the best?
Well, I think they're still interested in pursuing it, and I don't think that has been decided yet. And I do want to go on saying is, at no time did they say, we expect you to use your money to build a new fire station. That has never, they've never one time even inferred, indicated, or anything like that. That was the response from the folks in Riverbank that had that concern. And you definitely didn't propose that.
In fact, we plan to pay for it by selling the other one. So.
Yeah. And so I'm looking for direction from them. I guess it could go either way. I guess they could say, hey, we're not interested in going after another tax initiative. We want you to go after the 218 or go after just the layover through your attorney's legal opinion. Or they could come back and say, hey, we want to pursue a tax. But either way, I'd have to go back to my board to see if they would support either one of those options.
It's kind of difficult for us from Oakdale, for Oakdale Fire Department to really speak to this because, I mean, I guess in a long run, it could affect us some way, but nothing major because, I mean, we are a contract for services. But I do this is just my opinion, just from living in Oakdale. I don't think the folks out in the rural will support a new tax. And I definitely think you're going to have backlash if you try to impose one. So I mean that's just my opinion. I have a lot of friends that live out there. I mean, I hear it all the time that they're not happy. Based on some of the discussion the chief had, again, just my opinion from just hearing it right now. So I don't have all the details, but it sounds like there's. If you were going to go to a full consolidation with the Oakdale Fire District, all the liabilities falling on Stanislaus Consolidated. That's what it appears to me. And there's less liability falling on the rural. So, I guess I could go on and on, but I can't really give an opinion here. That's just my view of just what I heard right now.
As I understood the LAFCO process, though, the citizens have a 30-day, 45-day period to protest, and if they don't get at least 25% of those people protesting, then it's considered okay. Is that?
That's correct.
Yes.
City does it all the time. Every water fee, every
Yes.
sewer fee, every fee the city goes a 218 process.
But I do believe there are two different things.
Yes.
Though.
Right.
Is the LAFCO annexation process, and there is ability to challenge under 218 in the LAFCO annexation process. But even if you don't receive the protest votes, I still think we're vulnerable because that's the LAFCO process. I still think there's a legal process.
I
that
still
could
think you
occur.
can get sued.
Well, the Fresno did.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
Fresno
don't think
did. I
there's
mean,
even though if you have that, nobody shows up and we go along with it, I still think that you can.
Right.
And I do believe that that's where maybe the misconception was when this was discussed earlier, is that the two were maybe mixed up a little bit, going through the LAFCO process, annexation process, and then whether or not from a legal basis you can overlay a 218 tax on a special district, an independent special district, and it hasn't been done before, that we know of anyway in California.
I know a lot of folks out in the rural area are their nerves are a little bit raw over that imposition of the state fire tax that got imposed upon them. So I don't know. I just think that they're going to be, you'll have a little bit of backlash. Whether that's enough to stop something, I don't know. But
I was going to say, has the district given it any thought politically wise about doing that? Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it should. Maybe it should.
If we keep going down the road we're going, we won't have a fire station out there anywhere. I mean, at some point in time, we're just going to run out of.
Right. I'm sure that's
back.
been forecasted out and when that
Yeah.
position might be, but
3 years. Yeah.
okay,
And
3 years.
thing is,
Maybe
kind of
in the
challenge
next
is-
year or two after we put some miles under our feet after this merger or contract for services, maybe that time then will be a little bit better than it is now.
maybe, I just don't want the door to shut.
Right. No, I can understand
The other
that.
problem we have is we respond to a couple, and I'm how many square miles, where they don't pay any taxes at all,
Right.
but we have to go there anyway.
No. Yeah, you're
And those
talking
are the
about
people
Division
that-
One
those are the
North. I
people
know
that vote
exactly.
down. Because there are a lot of people live out there, so they say, hey, Farmington gets here. Farmington doesn't have anything.
Remember, we used to have that area before you did, so I know exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about, what kind of bird that could put under
And
your
every time we
side.
bring it up to them, they come out in droves. They don't ever show up any other time. So we don't need you guys, we got tractors. They still come out.
Well, I mean, that's the concern, from Oakdale, as a city's point of view, is the financial health of Consolidated is now our vested interest, because we did get Measure Y passed, so we're feeling a little more confident in providing service. I think we've crossed that hurdle. Things are getting better. We are building in town. The way cities work, our funding is actually improving every month. But I just hate to get mired down as a group in the same situation Fresno, where they had only a 7%, I think it was 7% said no, did the protest. They passed the water fees, then all hell broke loose afterwards. After everything was done, and they actually had to go back and after, I think, 8 months or 6 months, and then pull the whole water fee plan, and
Yeah, they waited till the ox got gored.
yeah, yeah.
That's good. Well, one of the other things, and this is a conversation I've in my labor groups here, and they're going to start throwing stuff at me. One of the things that we started to socialize the concept with the labor group, that right now our fire protection model is truly a suburban fire protection model. And I just see what we're trying to do is lay a suburban fire protection model on a rural area. And I think that we have to start thinking a little differently when it comes to Valley Home and Knights Ferry and even LaGrange. Small population, not a large population center, low call volume, and they just can't afford three-person engine companies. Right now, Oakdale can't afford three. So you take those, and they really, and the difference is they will never be able to afford a three-person engine company. I mean, you think about it, their taxes are higher than ours are right now. We charge $261 per home, and theirs is more than that. Now ours will overtake it in 3 years, but so you're going to have to charge them even a lot more to get to those staffing levels. So we're going to work with our labor group, and we're going to try to start thinking out of the box a little bit and what our options are to look at how to staff those fire stations maybe in a little different manner. So we started having those discussions, but very, very, very preliminary, and I definitely don't want to speak for the labor group, whether or not they're going to support it, but I do believe we just have to think different on how we staff those fire stations so they can live within their means, but we could still have some type of professional fire protection out there. Because in the old days, yeah, now using interns in some way, because our biggest problem in fire protection in California right now for the rural communities, we used to rely on volunteer firefighters, and we just don't have them anymore. People that live in the community that would go pick up the fire engine, we just, because of state law, because of training requirements, because of background requirements, we just don't have that core. So what we really have now are kids that want to be firefighters, that graduate from firefighter 1 and EMT, and they're looking for kind of a part-time job until they find a full-time job. So I think we need to look at all of those options. And as the labor group, as we have those discussions with them, we're really not taking away the jobs because the jobs aren't there, and the jobs probably will never be there. So, and again, I'm kind of bumping up against their MOU, and I have to be careful here, but we just need to look at all those different options.
Well, let me ask one question. It's been talked about in some of the other rural agencies, most of the rural independent agencies are in trouble across the state. And of course, the state, what is it, $190 per parcel wildland fire, and which residents in rural are paying. There's been some talk of the state now that quote-unquote budget is better, kicking some of that money back to help some of the rural agencies that overlap with CAL FIRE and rural protection. Is that going to really happen?
Well, I know the California Fire Chiefs Association is kind of at a battle with CAL FIRE because CAL FIRE is part of that group and has a lot of influence over that group. So there is interest. I know where there's a district that overlays the fire, the SRA area, that I think it's down to $130. Is that About 130, it's 190 if you're not in a special fire district. But, but that $130, even if we got half of that $130.
I know it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, well, it would still help them tremendously though, and so I'm hoping, right now, even when it was enacted, we were supposed to have access to those funds through fire prevention activities and the fire prevention fee, and we haven't seen any of those funds. And when we request those funds, I haven't done it here, but I did it in another fire district, they're like, oh, well, they're being used someplace else for other purposes. So I think we need to challenge that through the state and maybe get a little more active at the state level to see if we could break some of those funds loose. So that's a great point.
Any other questions on this item?
I have one comment and then a question. At this point, I don't think that the risk is worth it for our district to continue with this. I think right now we're still a little, I don't know if gun shy is the right phrase, but with the contract for services, and we're still treading through that. I don't think that we would be willing to commit to this process, especially financially at this point. My second concern, I know we talked about at our last regular meeting, and I just wanted the opportunity to ask the Oakdale Fire Protection District is, where can we find your minutes, agendas? I have not found a working website.
We don't have one. But if you want to give me your email, I'll fax it.
Well, that's fine for me, but for the rest of the
Well,
public.
give me all of them first. Or you can forward
Maybe if they could be emailed here,
Or we could start putting them on our website.
Betty.
or somehow, that way then we can access them.
Well,
What if I
You know what I'm
email-
saying?
Well, what if our
Or-
clerk emailed Betty
uh-huh.
the agenda? And
Well, that's-
that
And then the
would include
minutes.
of our last meeting.
That would be fine for me as an individual. I don't think that it would be appropriate at this juncture to have on our website because they are a separate entity. They've kept
I didn't
Yeah.
have it on your website.
Okay.
But
I just mean, I thought those things needed to be more public.
They are public, they're posted. They're not-
But they don't have it.
There's no website, but they
Okay.
are they're posted at our fire stations.
Because and actually, I think Betty already receives them. Several months ago, we had them forwarded to us as individuals. But one of the things that I know we started kind of scratching at is all of our fees that we pay for legal. And I had a chance to just go through, just the last couple months, we had some issues with email, with our own email being kind of haphazard. And so you asked, what was the legal opinion on this? So, Chief, my question is, who is taking care of that legal bill for things like LAFCO and annexation for Oakdale Fire Protection District? Because when I look at their budgeted amount, if I'm reading this correctly, it's $5,000 for the year, and they have spent zero of it. So I don't understand how our bills are so.
That particular comment came way last year, or in fact, probably even before that. But
Okay.
other than that, I can't address it.
And I do know that we are billing, I don't know how much, I'll find that out for you,
Okay.
that we are billing back the rural district for some legal fees. So let me find out how
Okay.
much of those that they are getting billed.
It is the same lawyer.
Yeah.
Right, and we are, like I said, knee-deep in scratching at
Yeah, I
those,
know.
those things. But when I look at their agenda and minutes from November 18th, and their budget to date being at 42% of the year, legal fees budgeted amount is $5,000, and from July 1st through November 15th, paid out shows zero.
So
So I'm
that,
just-
is that, I don't have the budget, so is that their all legal fee? Their attorney is only $5,000 a year?
That's all that is budgeted for the year.
That'd be
So,
interesting to see just that
Just the
that
more-
their legal counsel is only
It's a thread we
$5,000 a
kind of
year.
started pulling at a few months ago, and I think the more we're pulling at it, it's kind of unraveling. And so when we talk about legal opinion, I just want to make sure that that goes to the appropriate agency. I appreciate if your office handles divvying that out, but I think bigger issue, I don't know why it comes to us in the first place.
Point well taken. I will follow up.
Thank you. And then if there is a system as far as having them posted publicly, Betty is great about filtering out information and forwarding on information if she needs to, but we had to ask for that. I don't know, and I thought things like that were supposed to be more public, but I could be mistaken.
I had to request yours.
Really?
Yeah.
They're on our website,
But I will have.
because I do reference them too.
I will have, I
Okay.
will have to send them, but we do not have a website, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Just, what is the method and how does the
I
public?
would think, well, I'll discuss it with our own.
Okay.
But I would think we just send it to Betty, and then she could either, if somebody wanted it, we could
Sure.
her, or call Danielle, our clerk.
Okay.
She would get it. Or if nothing else, call me and I'll get it.
We might have to send you one of the city interns to build your website,
There
because
you
that's what
go.
we did when we were broke.
And I know your minutes aren't quite as detailed as ours, but they're there.
No, they're there, yeah. They're different.
They're
yeah.
there.
Actually,
We got a guy that came in and did it for free because he needed to get some hours for his
Oh, there you
master's
go.
degree.
What'd you
He
do when
did
that ran out?
He did a bang-up job.
We're doing financially better now, so we're hoping to move on from the interns, but we're using more and more college interns because we think it's a valuable thing as our workforce gets older.
Yes.
There's not the young people, coming into the all sectors like there used to be, and getting some people involved in the city.
And it's a great
young-
experience for
yeah.
them.
It is.
If there's no other questions, we'll 4-4, I guess.
So our agency update, I don't know, I think I've given you enough information. Our
think
board,
so.
do you want to add anything else, or?
No, I agree with Michelle, definitely regarding the legal costs and stuff like that. We definitely, as a board, we want to be interested. If it is being reimbursed or something, then we just want to be able to see that. Okay, so somehow. So, my comment is kind of as the same as, real quick on this, as Mr. Jackson. I'm just not real sure, and as Michelle, that as our board is interested really in moving, as we're just talking here open forward with that right now, just so we just basically got the contract services with everybody, and the cost and everything of moving forward with this. Definitely, this was something would have to be really beat over pretty hard right now. We already looked at the costs, and at this one, we looked at the very first time of this, so, and what it was going to cost. And I just, like I said, I can't speak for the rest of the board too, but, we're pretty happy with the contract services right now to see how that's going to pan out before we kind of jump into something else. And I know, like I said, you're going to run out of money. You don't want to close stations. You don't, and we don't want that. Okay, but we want to be very cautious what direction that we head here.
Well, I think I'd like to agree with you. I mean, as a group, I think we need to have open, honest conversations, and this process has been going on in Oakdale and Oakdale Fire Protection. We've known this has been coming. We've been working in
Right.
partnerships, saving money, doing things differently, working with our labor groups, coming up with new widgets to solve problems. And I think it's unfortunate, we know it's coming, but we do have some time as a group
Right.
to all kind of have a meeting of the minds and make sure all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed.
Right.
Because we don't want to, because it will affect, even though we're not directly making the decision, it will affect Oakdale. It will affect
Sure.
if they go have trouble, because we still are going to go put out the fire.
That's right.
The state isn't going to let us go, hey, you know what, they're not paying their bills, so we're not going there. So, we all need to be concerned about our neighbors, because we still, at the end of the day,
We
are going to be there.
Okay, I'm good.
Does Oakdale City have any update from the agency?
I have not heard anything bad. That's a good thing.
That's good.
No citizen has called me
No.
and complained about anything. I think the conversations I've had in town and with City Manager Whitemeyer has been all positive. I know there's some rumblings in some of the members of labor groups, depending on where you're at in the pecking order. It might not be the right word, but I know that's going on. I don't know how big a deal that is really in the whole sphere of things. But it seems like most everybody is happy from what I'm seeing from the labor group, hearing from the labor groups. We're a labor group now, right?
Labor group.
And from the citizens is they feel very comfortable that fire is going to show up when they're supposed to in a timely manner. and they're seeing that we're, as a group, proactively watching each other's back to make sure this is going to work, and looking at what's going to save your district money, your taxpayers, city's taxpayers, and rural. That we're concerned about what's being spent, and I think that's been a positive thing the last few months, that, you know, we're just not sitting waiting for all of us to get in trouble. We're going to be proactively moving forward. So that's about all I've heard from. So that's a good thing.
I've not had any bad feedback, good feedback from especially some of our senior firefighters. You know, they seem to be happy with how things are going. And I understand that Louis Mora is the new elected president, isn't he, for the labor group?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. You know, I mean, we've been working at this process for a long time, especially with Oakdale Fire District. I mean, Tom, I don't know, 7 years or more. And
At least
you know,
7.
It's little baby steps, and finally, we've got to a point where I think it's really going to work, and there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be problems, and I would hope that as a group, and when I say as a group, I mean Oakdale Fire District also, because as Tom had mentioned, you know, we all rely on one another. And if there's a fire in the district's area, I mean, we all go. Everybody goes. And that's going to continue to happen. So it's in our best interest, everybody's best interest, to see that Oakdale District is successful. You know, because I mean, we're going to be filling in if not, and that would be a shame not to have the rural covered to the full extent that it needs to be covered. I do want to make an announcement. This will be my last meeting because I am retiring from the city council as of Monday night. I will have 16 years in local government, and it's, hey, there's my cue. It says, you're off, I'm done. That's it. But anyway, it's been a pleasure working with this board for the last couple of years. Yeah, last couple of years. It's always good when you have a common goal that you want to make something succeed. And you know, there were some arguments, but it was all professional. And I'm glad to see that we're at this point, and I hope it continues to move forward, and all the little problems or the big problems get
I think
worked.
we determined that at a few meetings back when we sat there in Oakdale at Station 4 in that place there, and we said, we're all going to be honest about this, and we're going to speak our mind about things.
Right.
And I think that was one of the biggest pluses that we ever did that day, to whatever was on our mind, good or bad, that it was to come out for the best of the district, for Oakdale, for Oakdale Rural, and all of us. So I think that was a very positive day for us.
So do I.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to see it at this point, and so I just wanted to thank everybody, because if the next time you see me, I'll be out there probably talking back this way. But
We won't listen to you then. But just so you know, we'll give you the starry-eyed look, like whatever.
I can pound and I can get angry, see, out there. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, one last thing that I have too, well, and we're going to get the rural district. I was remiss at not introducing our new administrative assistant who just started on Monday. Very fortunate, Carissa Higginbotham. Did I do good?
You did good.
And she comes to us from the series of the city of Ceres, where she served for 11 years, working for the city manager's office, the fire department, police department. Very good experience. She's got a bachelor's degree in social science, and so far we've been extremely pleased with her. So you'll be seeing Carissa here often. She'll be supporting this group, and also with the approval from our board, eventually she'll be our board clerk also for the district board. So I want to introduce you to Carissa. I'm sorry I didn't do that earlier. And do you have anything you'd like to report? Okay. Labor group, I guess.
Labor group. Well, since the go live date, we've had a couple union meetings. Things have gone well. I haven't quite heard the grumblings that are out there. I'm sure there are guys that sometimes don't want to come to the meetings but want to talk out in the field. But they have gone really smooth. Obviously, there's always a few issues that need to be handled, and I think we've been working with the chief on those. We did just have elections, and you're right, Louis is the new president of Local 3399. That transition will take place at the next meeting. I'm still the vice president. Captain Mark Jacobs, he is the new treasurer, and Sean Ehrenberg is staying on as secretary. So those are really the only updates that we have going on right now. So we're looking.
You're staying as vice president?
Vice president.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, 4 years now, I think, in running. Don't ask me why.
You're also in charge of another little group, right? In the
Political Action Committee, yeah.
last name of Condit. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
That has served us well a little bit, I think. Other than that, that's all we have as a labor group.
Well, seeing if that's it, then we'll move on to 5-1, schedule the next meeting. It sounds like there isn't a whole lot to talk about at this point, maybe until mid-February.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are we looking at it approximately every 2 months?
Well, originally we talked about once a quarter, once every, I mean, if we want to go to March, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, we can call this meeting, we can call this to order if we have something come up. It's very easy to do. I mean, we're all engaged every day on this project. But, you know, I want to keep the cost to staff down for having nothing meetings doesn't really serve any purpose either, so.
Well, I believe Oakdale Fire Protection District is the one that wanted this meeting, correct? Was it just to discuss possible
Well, I just
LASCO,
thought
or?
that it would be good to have everybody sit around and if whatever came up,
Okay,
but just to keep it, put a person behind the
sure.
letter.
Well, not to back up, but you got what you needed from the meeting? I mean,
No, obviously not.
well, I mean, you got answers that
I got
so you
answers.
have an understanding where everybody in the group stands,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, one of the things on their behalf, it is in the contract that we'll continue to evaluate the options of full consolidation. So
Sure.
I will continue to do that with them, but not move any further without direction from our board
Right.
and from this group.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
whatever path they choose to go down for that, that's completely up to, that's why they still have their board.
Yeah.
But, and if you need to bring it back to our whole board, just for a pulse check, you're more than welcome to, but at this point, I think we're pretty good where we are right now. But I'm fine waiting till March.
and then March it is?
Sure.
March worked for me.
Do you want to?
We're not listening to you anymore, so.
You'll have
You're
to find someone to fill that seat now. Yeah.
I'll have to work on that.
You'll
That's
have to
my,
work on that, huh?
after Monday, I have to
That's
find
right.
us a new member.
Are we going to pick a date or just wait for an email?
Why don't we leave it at the chief's discretion when we
Yeah.
get to the 1st of March to pick a day that works for him and email it out, and then
Sounds good.
we'll chew it out by email, how schedules
You'll
work.
work to get a new person appointed, the
Well,
replacement before March?
I'm Mayor Pro Tem and the
Oh.
mayor,
Oh,
so,
yeah, you're gonna.
and I agree on what's going on, so it's just a matter of deciding who's gonna be asked. It doesn't necessarily mean they were willing to do it, but who's gonna be asked.
Usually in January, the
Yeah.
first couple of meetings.
Okay.
I could
Make
get canned as vice mayor too, so who knows? If that's all, we will
Thank you.
close the meeting.
Thank you so much.